Okay, welcome back to Great Area. I am very, very happy to have Supernova with me today. How are you two doing today? How are you feeling?
Yeah, we are good. Nice to see you guys, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, really happy to be with you today.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you. Very,
As you
very
can see, we are in the studio right now.
I noticed a very nice studio. I was going to say I was quite jealous. You're still living in Florence, is it, at the moment?
We're in Florence at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are in the studio. Is one of the studio because we have this place that we have 3 studios, 1 kitchen.
Wow.
It's like our home, our second home. So
wow, that's the dream. So you get
bathroom, shower, everything.
Really? Oh gosh, you can just, when family life is too much, you can just stay there you can just relax there.
Exactly.
Correct.
No, that's amazing. Very, very cool. Very cool. So today, this interview is going to be mostly about the origin story of you guys, how you first got into music, how things have changed over time, different things like this. And so I think a good place to start is childhood, of course. So thinking back to when you were children, who were the first musicians that you loved? Doesn't have to be electronic, just any musicians. Who were the very first musicians that you remember thinking, oh yeah, that's amazing?
Wow, that's hard. I mean, when we were child, I mean, I probably had the chance to listen to a lot of musicians, but when I start to remember something, I think personally I was into the 80s. So I was really passionate to Duran Duran, for example.
Oh, Duran's amazing.
That's one. If you say to me now, I remember that Duran Duran for me has been like a band that put a mark into my musical, my approach to the music. You know, I remember them. Of course, there was a lot also more, but if I has to say a name, that's the name right now.
Duran, incredible. Yeah, I can imagine. And you mentioned that they had an impact on the music that you made further down the line. So could you explain that to me a bit? So do you think that the music that you listened to when you were children growing up, do you think that had a big impact on the music that you make as producers, you know, further down the line?
Yeah, of course, all the music that you listen when you are a child, even if you don't want to put it into the music that you produce, eventually it influences you, of course. So, I mean, we are not, even if we also did, in our first album, we did a cover of Duran Duran single, Save a Prayer. So for sure they have been influence for our music, but we can't say they have influenced our way of doing music. But of course, the 80s has been for us, I think, the years where we start to memorize something of what we were listening. So that years are the first years that we really kept the music that we were listening to. So starting, because I mean I'm born in 1974. He's born in 1972. So around 9 years is the years when you start to remember what are you listening to. No?
Yes, and 80s are also years that we started to be DJ and musicians too. We were young, we were baby kids, but we started at the end of the 80s to move the first steps in the music. like DJs, musicians, and so
Yeah.
80s are really important for us for many things.
No, that's amazing. And when it comes to, I know you were saying that's when you first started producing music. But how did the two of you meet then? And come up with the idea of producing music together? How did that work?
Come ci siamo incontrati?
Yeah, we knew each other since a long time. We were kids together. We went at the same, same. We had same friends, same place where we met. But Supernova born because we met at one party where I play music like a DJ, and he was there because enjoying the party, and we start. We met after several years, and we used to speak about music, about our projects. I was starting a new project with a club in Florence. The club wants to produce a new music project, like an album, and I speak about these things to Giacomo and invite him to do this kind of project together. And I went to Milan in his studio, and we start produce music together, and we say, why don't start a really big project together? And so Supernova was born.
And here we are after almost 20 years.
Amazing, so amazing. After 20 years, a big decision, but the best decision, definitely.
Next year is our 20th anniversary.
Wow, incredible. Do you have anything planned to celebrate, or is it too soon?
Yeah, we have in mind, I mean, to do an album, to release an album in 2023. But first we have to produce it. So we have some songs that we always, there are some songs that you produce sometimes, and you really don't find the right collocation at the moment. But we always say this could be a good song for an album. So we have some songs in our hard drive that of course we have to work on to refresh, but we always think about an album. So probably next year we want to give the light to this album, and then of course the idea was to plan a tour around the album for our 20th anniversary. So this is the biggest project we have for next year, because doing an album is not that easy. We produce a lot, we do a lot of music, we have 3 labels, so we work always around the music, but we just did 2 albums really. So the first one that was the one that Amy was talking about first, and that was the album that made Supernova born, After that and that was 2003.
Yeah.
And then we did another album in 2007, and then stopped. So of course we did a lot of single productions, remixes, tons of music, but never find the time and the energy, the right energy to put together an album. So this is our goal for next year.
Amazing, guys! Incredible, though. I'll keep my eyes peeled for it. I think that's the perfect way to celebrate such a big accomplishment of 20 years. I mean, incredible. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your early days getting into dance music. So I know you mentioned Duran Duran as one of the first kind of artists that you really gravitated towards and really liked. But can you remember the first DJ or DJs that really stood out to you and really made you think, wow, this is amazing, and really made you fall in love with dance music? Can you think back to that first DJ or DJs?
Qualche nome di DJ ci
Sì,
sono,
no, mi sembra.
but there was, I mean, that was the late 80s again, because that was the years we starting approaching to the club or dance music and going to clubs and see DJs. So we of course we had some local DJs that we admire because they were playing into the place where we were going to dance. But if you talk about internationals,
it's difficult because I think the point is that when we started to be DJ, and it was at the end of the 80s, the figure of the DJs was totally different. There wasn't star DJ. You start to be a DJ because you have passion of DJing, not because you was fan of some DJs or because it was the job of the moment. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to recognize that kind of figures that represent the start of our career and of our passion, because we were really young, and the figure of DJs was totally different. We were really impressed from the new scene that coming in the disco, in the clubs, and it was the house music, Frankie Knuckles, the hip house, the fast electronic music that at the end of the 80s coming in Italy from USA, from England, and that was
Fast Eddie.
Yes, yes, a lot of names like a lot of names of that era. Yes, yes. I don't remember the name, but
of course, that was the moment where the house music, the real house music, was coming into clubs, but at the moment was really different from now, because there was no internet. There was not, you always could see the DJ that were coming into your countries, because otherwise there was no way to see like today's, to see streaming a video or a photo on the web. So it was really, that's why the DJ was not like that business was really passion for music and for clubbing culture. That was for sure. That was the big difference from nowadays, because the club culture was really underground. Today it's almost like pop stars, but back in the day it was not like this.
No, it's really, I completely understand what you're saying, actually, and it's very interesting to see how dramatically electronic music has changed with regards to, as you say, these days you have superstar DJs, such international celebrities, whereas originally, obviously, that wasn't the case. So that is really interesting to see that you guys were coming up at the time when Frankie Knuckles was also kind of just gaining international success. So I completely understand what you're saying. That's really interesting.
Frankie Knuckles was one of the first records we bought. I remember in 1988, maybe, we bought the vinyl of Your Love, one of our favorite records. Maybe we speak later about that. I don't know. it was one of the first vinyl we bought, and it came from the American house. That it was so strong in that moment.
Now the DJs, career is, it's not only about the DJing art or the music. It's maybe it's half about social media, maybe more than half, and then comes the rest. Okay, of course. So you can be a pop star DJ today if you are really good into social media. But that's another job. I mean, so of course it's a mix of job.
I'd agree with you actually, and I think that that's not something that enough people admit, because I think that's very true. Social media, I think, you're completely right, plays a huge role in how famous musicians are these days. So I completely agree with what you're saying, definitely. Thank you for that. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about was the first track that the two of you produced. If you think back, so I was wondering, could you talk me through the process of producing the first track that you released? How long did it take you to make? Do you think that your style has changed a lot since then? How old were you? What do you think?
The first track we produced is, it's one of the tracks that are included in After Beach, that is the first album where Supernova were born, that we were talking about before. So we don't remember which was the first one that we produced together, but that tracks are the first that we have produced. And we were not in this studio. We were in a studio in Milano, because I lived in Milano for 20 years. So he was coming to the studio, and for days, and we stayed into the studio to work on. And at that time, we were using, talking about software, we were using Logic. And the fun things is that we were using a synth that we still have. It's there. Maybe I can show you later. It's off now, but sometimes we use it. That is from Novation, that is called Supernova. That was the synth that helped us to find our names, because when we started to produce together, we were not thinking, in the very beginning, we were not thinking to do a project together. We were just doing, he was doing this album for the club, and I was helping him doing it. But after a few days working together, we said, okay, that it's fun to work. Let's do something, And then when we finished the album, we were thinking about the name to give us, and that's, we were thinking about a name that was international, but not English. So looking at the keyboards that we were using a lot for the album, because we used that one a lot. We saw the name and say that's a cool name. It was plenty of good meanings also around that name, so we choose it for our project, for our.
Too many meanings.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to find Supernova on Google.
I realized this before, actually, yeah, but you guys were the originals, which is, I mean, that's important.
We hope so.
Amazing. That's so interesting, actually. I never knew that about the synthesizer, and that's how you got the name. Incredible.
Yeah, the synth is from Novation. It was one of the first digital analog synth, so it was an expander synth, not without keyboard, but they had good sound. We have use it a lot for our productions.
Really, really, really interesting. Thank
Back
you.
in the days, we had also a sampler. Yeah, also we were using also Akai as the Akai sampler. It was a little bit different of what we use today. This is much faster than back in the days.
Very, very, very interesting. Very eye-opening as well, actually, to see kind of how the production methods have changed for you guys over time. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about was your first big achievement in music. So I'm sure, of course, especially with you guys, loads of massive achievements over the years. But what do you think to you was your first big achievement in music? And that could be personal or it could be professional, it could be anything you like. But what do you think?
I would say that could be as a duo. I think when we start we had the pleasure to remix many artists, and one day we were working with King Street Sounds, and they released a lot of tracks of Kerry Chandler. So we back in the days, we were like almost 15 years ago, and we had the chance to remix one track of Kerry Chandler's that did very well. It was played by tons of DJs, and Kerry was one of our favorite DJs at the moment. So that's of course has been a nice thing as producer, as remixer. And at the same time, almost at the same times, we got called by Defected to fly to London and made a big project with them that lead us also to mix the Miami in the House compilation for them. And that was a really nice thing, because we went to Miami music conference since the beginning of our careers. So we remember we went to a Defected in the House party in Miami. At that time, they were big in Miami, and so then come to mix that compilation for us has been, of course, a success.
Also, in 2009, the beginning of our first label, Lapsus Music, was, to be honest, a really good goal, because from that moment on, we share a lot of our music. We share a lot of music from our friends, artists, and we start to do a really Supernova scene, music scene, because we could share all the music we wanted. And I think from that moment, a new Supernova era started. It was really important for us.
Yeah,
our first label was important.
And now we have 3 of them. So of course, that's a big goal, because now we have a lot of artists. We have a publishing company. So we can release all the music, all the genres that we love, that is not only house music. So we built 3 labels that make us enough open to release different genres that all make our world, music world.
Yeah, we love to release on our labels all the music that we can play during a set. We imagine our label like all the platform that you can take the good records for the perfect set. You know what I mean? So it's important for us to have this kind of windows now, to have Lapsus Music, Downtown Underground, and Blackboard, 3 different genres, but they can speak each other. This is important. The DJ set that speaks with the labels, and the labels that speaks with Supernova DJ sets.
It's the dream, to be honest. It's the dream for so many producers. So absolutely stunning achievements. Yeah, it's I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this would think it's the dream, really, to have multiple.
It wasn't like this at the beginning. It was not like this at the beginning, because at the beginning, we only one label. Sometimes it was difficult to not release some good music because it was out of your label germ. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We love the music. We receive a lot of demos. So it's difficult sometimes to say no when you listen to good music, It's difficult not to play a good records. It's difficult not to release a good records too.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, I can imagine it must be difficult as well, must present its challenges, but a massive accomplishment nevertheless. Incredible. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask about a collaboration you did with Kevin Saunderson back in 2010. You released a massive hit track with him. It was one of your big ones for sure. I wanted to ask you, so obviously another legend, Kevin Saunderson. What's it like working with him? How did you meet? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a fun story, because we first released the record without meeting him, because we took a sample from a library that we had. That was not just a small sample. So, and we didn't realize that was part of a Kevin Saunderson record. So we released these records, and we went up in the charts all over. So Kevin at the beginning has been a little bit upset about this, because we didn't clear the sample, because we didn't know there was a sample, okay, from his records, honestly. So then at the end he has been in touch with us, so we have re-released the record Supernova featuring Kevin Saunderson, and from that moment we have been very very good relation with Kevin. We played together at Cielo in New York, so yeah, has been a very good collaboration.
His son releases on Lapsus too recently.
Yeah,
Dante Saunderson released on Lapsus, and we had several collaboration also on with Hans Anderson,
his wife, his first wife.
Wow, God.
Yeah, from Indian City.
Yeah.
So we collaborated with all the family.
Yeah,
the Anderson family.
Yeah, at the end we
feel like part of the family.
Yes. Yeah, Anne was the first wife of Kevin, and was one of the part of the inner city singer and writers.
So that's it. I didn't know that. That's fascinating. Wow, incredible. Yeah. Wow. So thank you so much. Very, very, very eye-opening again, to get that insight. So next thing, I wanted to ask you a bit about your live performances. I know that your live performances have changed over the years. I was reading that originally you didn't use DJ decks and it was all real instruments, and then it changed and changed. So I read that sometimes you perform using DJ decks and real instruments like synthesizers, things like that. I wanted to ask you about that, because that's not something that you see that often. So why is it that you do that? What are the benefits of doing that for you?
Probably some of the first, back in the days, DJs to do a live set, to experiment live set in clubs. So that was our first goal, because I was coming from the studio live he was a DJ, so I told him I want to try do something live while we DJ, and we built a real live setup. In the first years, we
were a big fan of Chemical Brothers at the beginning,
yes.
so we want to emulate them.
Groove Armada, Chemical Brothers, yeah. So we were going into clubs with thousands of keyboards, mixers. Every gig was a mess in the beginning because we were to set up the console, and back in the days was not that easy with controllers and small stuff that is like it's today, you know. So today is much easier to do like this. So, but then after a while, we realized that kind of live, there was a real live, so all prepared before, like with like 12 songs, and you could play that one only. Was good for festival things, but not for clubs, because in clubs you have to be more
into the mood of DJing. You have to catch which is the vibe. You have to change records at the last minutes. You have to feel in the dance floor. So if you have a live set, you have to show what you have prepared before, more or less, and you show your music, you show your good techniques. How can you say?
Yeah, you good skills, good practice skills. But it's not good for the club, the dance floor, because if something is not working, you cannot change. So we started to do this mixed thing between DJ and live set and live instruments. So at the beginning we were using Tractor and Ableton, and then we moved to the Tenax and Ableton. So basically we were playing music from Dex, and at the same time we were like adds on live percussion or live playing some small live synth lines or something like this, you know, and then or playing our track from Ableton as well. But now we are going into a complete and full DJ set, so we are leaving the live part and just doing a regular DJ set, and we have in mind to do maybe with the album
a
real live set, but just to show like
to split the two things, real DJ set and real live set. After years we think about it.
That was the process.
That is such an amazing idea, actually, to have, you know, the best of both, you know, and all combined. That's incredible. Yeah,
we love to change.
Also because when you travel, a lot around, it's not also easy to bring back with you the live instruments. So you have to really be prepared and ask a certain tech rider. So it's better to do it around a tour that is on back of an album, for example. So this is the idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. That's really, really, really interesting to understand the development and how things have changed and why they've changed, and very, very interesting. So thank you. So next thing, we've talked a little bit about this before. We touched on this topic before, but you know, you've had the chance to you've been asked to remix tracks by, you know, some of the most famous house and techno DJs in history. You know, you've been asked to remix tracks by Frankie Knuckles, Kerry Chandler. I know we talked a bit about Kerry Chandler earlier on. So I wanted to ask you, what is it that you think draws the attention of these artists? Because, you know, obviously these days there are so many different house and techno DJs out there. But what do you think it is about your sound and maybe your production methods that draws the attention of these legendary DJs and producers?
Hard question.
It's hard.
I think that we probably had a kind of fresh approach to house music, and we were able to give a different and a new vibe to a big hit without moving too far from it, without ruining it, so that I think has been I think this is the goal of a mixer, because when you touch a hit record, of course it's hard. It's really hard, and but if you have been asked to, you have to do it. So the best way is to find a good and fresh way of put the biggest element of the record to the new generation. That's why. So that's what we tried in our career when we remixed Strings of Life, or when we remixed Kerry Chandler or Jakarta, or all this. The other was Chestamir, yeah. Now Chestamir, all these names. A long story.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that what you're saying makes complete sense. Essentially, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think it's such a skill as well to be able to remix in a way that doesn't ruin the track, but also kind of evolves it, and gives it your own touch. So I think that's a massive skill in itself. So definitely, yeah. Thank you. I wanted to ask a bit about the Italian electronic music scene and the Italian clubs. Do you think that the Italian electronic music scene and the Italian clubbing scene, do you think that it's changed over years? And if so, how do you think it's changed? I know it's quite a big question, but.
Yes, I think, of course, they change a lot since the beginning. I think during the 90s, Italian scene was maybe one of the best in the world, I would say. Now maybe it's not the best, so that's why they change. But I think we had good spots, good festival, and good clubs also during these days. This industry during the years has been changed a lot of times, because speaking about 90s or 80s, there was no internet, there was no social media, so the club was really different. The approach to the club, who was involved in the clubs, it was really different. So I think the things are changing a lot, of course. Nowadays it's difficult to speak about clubbing, because especially in Italy during the last 2-3 years was really difficult with the pandemic. So nowadays it's really tough. But I think that there was a little changes. Years.
And maybe now it's a new beginning, hopefully a new good beginning for club scene in Italy. But one of the I think that Italian scene doesn't have or doesn't have been able to do compared to the other scene. For example, as Amy was saying, in the 90s, we were really strong. I mean, we had big clubs, big scene, big DJs, and nowadays also we have big DJs, big producers, but we haven't been able to make a really Italian scene and export it around the world, like for example UK does, or like now the Amsterdam scene is doing with all this new trend music. So this has been one of the things that maybe we missed, because we always had big producers. Even today there are tons of Italian good producers
And DJs too.
and DJs, but we are not like we have been able to set a trend around from our, we always take the trend from outside. That's a pity for
It's
our
also
country.
political things, because I think in Italy we have more and more restriction than UK or Berlin or the German area, so this is not easy to develop a good culture for the young for the young generation, and also for all the investor, the people that could invest on the industry. So we have a good scene, we have good DJ, we have good producer, but we have too many limits lately that and it's difficult to evolve with this kind of limits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it completely makes sense actually, and it's such it's a real shame actually to see the impact that COVID's had, such a dramatic impact on the nightlife scene in the country.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I think maybe this is a new beginning. Maybe we see brand new changes, new trends, and new clubs all across the city. Let's hope.
We all hope.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you. One more question I wanted to ask before we move on to the next part of the interview was essentially, can you name a track that was particularly influential in your journey in dance music? I'm sure there's quite a few, but
yeah.
As we talked before about Frankie Knuckles, and one of the first vinyl we bought, and for sure Your Love by Frankie Knuckles was one of the records that influenced us, because at that time it was a really new sound for all of us, and for sure influenced all the music that we produce since the beginning of our career. So Frankie Knuckles, Your Love is the records.
Yeah, it's that record. Every time you still put, it always sounds different. It's something like really particular.
And we feel lucky to have the opportunity to remix Frankie Knuckles, Your Whistle song, to play together several times with Frankie.
To meet him in Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, and to speak about music for a long time in an hotel during EAD. It was a really big artist and big person. So sometimes life is strange, and it's funny. You have an hero, and you met him, you work with him. Frankie Knuckles is a special person, is a special DJ. Your Love is the track of the house era for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a brilliant choice for sure. It's so timeless. And I was going to say as well, like you were saying about being able to meet him as well and work with him in the past. That's again a huge dream of so many producers, I'm sure. So incredible. Thank you so much. So what we're going to move on to now, last part of the interview, is just a bit of fun. It is the speed round, where essentially I ask you 10 questions and you just answer without giving them too much thought, really. So let's get started. So first one is beaches or mountains. Which do you prefer?
Beaches.
Beaches, okay. Korg or Moog synthesizers. Which do you prefer?
Which is the first, Moog or?
So Moog or Korg synthesizer?
Moog.
Okay. Do you prefer intimate club or festival?
Intimate club.
Intimate.
Mm-hmm. Eric Pritz or Carl Craig?
Carl Craig.
Would you, okay, now they get a bit silly. So would you rather go into the past to meet your ancestors or go into the future and meet your great grandchildren?
Me into the future.
Can you repeat the first one? Sorry.
Sorry, that was quite a wordy one. So would you rather go into the past to meet your ancestors or go into the future?
The future for sure. Sorry. The future. Yeah.
Future, right? Okay. I'm the same.
Always future.
Yeah. Would you rather explore the deep ocean or space?
Space.
Deep ocean.
Cool. What is the #1 country that you'd love to go to but you haven't visited yet?
Polo North. North Pole.
No, Polynesia.
Oh, cool. Okay. Next one. Would you rather spend the day with your favorite athlete, so footballer or whatever, or your favorite movie star?
Movie star.
Sports star, maybe.
Okay. Would you rather be a little bit late or very early in general?
Me late.
A little bit late.
Okay. And last one, would you rather be fluent in every language or be a master of every musical instrument?
A master
of musical instruments.
It's a stupid question.
I wish I was so lucky. I usually see some people that can play, like, maybe not like the best, but they can play so much instruments.
It's useful also the first. Maybe I can do better the interview.
Thank you so much. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been incredible. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today.
Welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.